you might notice that I'm sweating. Congratulations, you are very astute. It's hot out. eBay tips and tricks to make $200 a day. That's today's topic for the video. You'll have to excuse me, I'm going through about $400 worth of postcards. I'm enveloping them. There's a word for that. So the other day, my dad calls me and he says he's listening to Alex Hormozy. I don't know how to say his name. You probably do. He's the acquisition.com guy. He's the no breeze strip guy. He's a successful business influencer, a successful guy, a rich guy. Insert whatever accolades you want. And then I'm sure that a lot of you know bad things about him too. I don't have an opinion, but what I do care about is what my father told me, and that he had heard, listening to his podcast or whatever, about inverse thinking, which is an interesting concept, inverse thinking. So we're going to inverse think our way to making $200 a day on YouTube, on eBay. Sorry. That was yesterday's video. So, I guess the idea behind inverse thinking, as said to me by someone who was listening to a podcast while they were driving, is that you say, well, how could we not do this? What could we do to not make? What's a bad way to make that much money? What would you do that would keep you from making $200 a day? And then you do the opposite. So number one, I'm going to go over a lot of these things, and it's going to be off the top of my head, and it's going to be kind of like a one-person podcast. So this is a podcast of a podcast. One, selling things for too cheap. That's the easiest, obvious answer. Oh no, I'm out of... We got to use the big boys now. These still go as envelopes. You sell things for too cheap. Well, maybe the things you're buying are only worth too cheap. You're selling the wrong things. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so what are the right things then? The right things are things that you sell for enough money to make $200 a day. That's the random mark that I put, because I think that most of you watching are not looking to be full-time resellers. I've done it on and off for a while, 20 years, a while, 20 years, no big deal. And I don't like spending 80 hours a week. The most time I ever spent was when I was doing books. I was a one-man show processing a pallet of books. I don't know if it was every week or every 2 weeks or every month. I don't remember. But I was working like 80 hours a week, and it sucked. I think in order for me to work 80 hours a week again, I'd have to be making like $2 million a year. And I was not making that. I don't remember what I was making, which probably means it was less than $100,000. It was probably around like 60 to 80 grand for 80 hours of work a week. Probably. I'm just guessing. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do a job that takes too much time. I wouldn't sell things that are worth very little. And I wouldn't sell things that are hard to obtain. Inverse thinking. Here's a bunch of postcards I sold for too little. Every once in a while, I like to test out a market. So I auctioned off about 25 RPPCs, which stands for Real Photograph Postcard. And these sold for like $1 a piece. Waste of my time, except it brought me information. I think probably a business that makes $200 a day has information. It knows, it does research. One of the things I'm doing in addition to this, which here's the results, don't auction off things. I know that everyone, there's gonna be maybe 5 out of every 1,000 smarmy bastards who say, well, of course auctions don't work. I'm an idiot. And they're not gonna say that, but they'll be calling me the idiot. They'll be the idiots, but I'm the smart one. I like to check, because if you can ever find a market where you can just auction shit off and make money, make $200 a day auctioning things off, where you have a reliable and recurring sales flow, that's a gold mine, baby. One of the first things I ever did that was actually like this, eBay has since changed, was jewelry. I would buy sterling silver jewelry and I would auction it all off. And at the time, it was only, this shows you how old I am. It was only $2.74 for a 4-ounce package with tracking, shipped. Speaking of bullshit tracking, I'm paying $4 to mail this because they bought it for $21.50. I would have rather they bought this for $18.49, because with their state sales tax, that equals $19.79, which means I can use a stamp, not a stamp, but one of these eBay standard envelopes to ship it out. So by selling this thing for more, I'm making less money because it requires more expensive shipping. Where was I? Jewelry, auctioning off jewelry, you made about 30%, and it was just a money machine. And I wish that I had more money. I was like 18, so I had no money at the time. But it was one of the ways that I paid for my community college degree and a lot of beer. That would have been how I paid for a lot of beer at the Double Wide in Traverse City. You ever been there? Do love Traverse City. So a business that makes $200 a day sells things that you can get a lot of, that you can make money off of. You do research in the market. You do research about your customers. You do research about the buying habits. And here's one more thing I'm doing that I am sure everyone who's making X amount of dollars a day, $1,000 a day, $10,000 a day, whatever the number you have in your head is that you want to hit, what people are doing who are making that amount, unless it's like $1 a day, is they are testing other things. What I'm testing right now across 3 eBay stores, 3 full eBay stores with 60,000 postcards, about a little less than that actually, for sale in each, is discounts. In one store, inventory that is between 411 and 360, 350, 320 days old is being discounted by 15%. Everything, all the postcards. One store that is maybe between 300 and 200 and 120, I don't know, days old. The second oldest store, everything is being discounted to 30% off. Wow. Both of these stores were making approximately $210. You know, it changed, it's seasonal, but over the summer, about $210 paying out, so profit basically, per week. And so I'm seeing, and then I have my control group, the third store, which is the newest inventory, which is another reason why I'm not including it in this test. They're just keeping all of the, you know, regular prices. But these 2 stores, I want to see, is there a significant boost in what I am paid out? Because I really don't care how much I make per postcard if I make more overall, because it only takes me about a minute to pick and post a postcard. The majority of the work is the scanning it, basically. Buying it, finding these deals, and then scanning it. Everything on the back end is really pretty simple. And so if I can figure out that a 30% discount makes more money than a 15% discount, which makes more money than no discount, then I'm in a good position. I think stores that make $200 a day do that. So now we're at about 10 minutes into the video, and if you're still here, you deserve a little treat. Here's the treat. We're gonna go over a few scenarios where that works. Video games. I'm going to go over the most common ones. How could you possibly do that? Well, one, you have access to a large supply. So you own a brick and mortar store where people are trading in video games. Great smart thing that Nerd Nation, I think what they're doing, they have a Switch 2 or two Switch 2s. And I don't know if they bought them from Target or if they have distributor connections. I hope they have connections where they get like a brick and mortar program where they get for them from Nintendo. That would be so awesome. What they're doing, instead of price gouging, ooh, sounds dirty. Instead of charging more than the retail price, they are saying $399 for a Switch 2 only trade-in. That is so smart. If you're watching this, Nerd Nation, you're in Missouri. If you're watching this, that's so smart. You're so smart for doing that, because the trade-in value that you're giving people is maybe, I don't know what it is, but I know that it's more than you would make by charging $340 for a Switch. And on top of that, it's good PR. Now people in your area know that Nerd Nation doesn't price gouge. They're not scalpers. They're still making money. So that's a way to get the good, reliable, what's it called? Inventory. That's the hardest part about video games. You know, people say you make money when you buy stuff. That's not always true, okay? There are value-adding processes. But when you sell video games, you can only add value two ways. One, complete, so adding manuals, and two, resurfacing them so they play. And at this point, those things are expected. And so you really are making your money on the acquisition end. And by doing trade-in only for a very in-demand product by someone who probably has a lot of money because they're paying $80 for Mario Kart, they probably have good games. They're probably okay with only getting 7 cents on the dime. That's not the best way of saying that. 70 cents on the dollar. They're okay with that. It's so smart. So that really is the difficult part of that equation. How do you get the source? So now I can't do any more trading stuff. Another thing that someone does, Max, down in Miami area. I don't know the exact area. He is Paper Gold podcast. He is something. He's a bookseller. He was a teacher. He's a man of many things. He offers a service, a consignment service. I'm done. Look at that. That was only 13 minutes for 25 postcards. Wowee. A consignment service where people are bringing him their inventory. And he takes, I don't know what amount, but I would guess somewhere in the tune of between 25 and 50%. If it's more, good for you. If it's less, what are you doing? I'm always right. That's a smart way of doing it too. These are items where he knows the market so well that he knows what the demand of these things are. He's getting his inventory for free. He's paying once it sells. Consignment. And there's not really a value add to it, but he's adding value on the supply side, where he's making it easier for people who own these collections to sell their books. Those are two great ways to easily make $200 a day on eBay. Now let's do a third one. I'm only talking about things that I've done and people that I've talked to. I talked to Max on the phone when I was doing bulk books that I was talking about earlier in the video. He was trying to sign me up to be one of his consignors. And then I talked to Nerd Nation on Instagram, but I believe at ThriftCon in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2022, 21, I don't know, a while ago. What's the third one? The third thing that I've sold that I see a model for, I think sports cards. And that's a bit trickier because to make $200 a day on sports cards, you have to be selling high value sports cards, and what that really means is graded cards. Obviously, there are some raw cards that go for more than graded cards. The market is complex and always changing, but I think graded cards, PSA cards, are the most easily transferable between two parties. Is that liquid? Can you say that PSA cards are more liquid than raw cards? I don't know. I'm not a financier. I sell postcards. How do you get those at a good rate? Well, you buy them in person. You go to card shows. The guy that I bought these 30,000 postcards from, he was very adamant about telling me the difference between postcard shows and selling online. At a postcard show, people are coming to you. You're sitting at your booth, you're going there, you're doing, the customer is doing more work. That's the way he described it. I don't know if it's true or not true, but I think it is because he's been doing this for a long time and he's a smart guy. The buyer at a postcard show, the buyer at a trading card show, the buyer at a gun show, the buyer at insert show is showing up, doing more work. They have cash in their hand, and I know that that's a trick because of instant payments and whatever, but they can give you money that you're not paying fees on, that, maybe you just use it. You don't declare it because you're a criminal. I don't say that that's bad, don't do that, but you understand how that could be an incentive for a seller at one of these shows. An old-fashioned stinky type. You go there and then you have $100,000. You buy $100,000 worth of liquid graded cards that you then sell on eBay. You buy them at 70% comps. You sell them at, and because you're spending, this is similar to what Ryan at Rally Roots does, where he will spend $1 million a year on t-shirts trying to make I don't know what his margins are, but I know he's not doubling his money, but he's making enough to finance a very nice house in Florida, a barn dominium. So let's say he's got 15 or 20% margins on $1 million that he's buying. So he's making $200,000 because he's adopting a similar model where he's able to buy a large amount from people to make their life easier. I don't know if he pays cash or what, but for the sake of my argument, say he pays cash. That encourages these sleazy t-shirt sellers, these sleazy card dealers, to accept lower deals. And then he does things the right way, declares all his profits, and is still making, $200,000 off that $1 million he spends. That's how you do it. Those are a lot more than $200 a day. But that's the title I wrote down. And maybe I'll change it. I can do what I want. Bye.